Welcome to WDUR 1490 AM. This is your host, Steve Rao. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of Morrisville, and I'm here as the host of our show, Leaders and Legends. And today we have a very special guest on Jim Rose. Jim, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Jim is the Regional Vice President of Yadkin Bank, which is a market-leading community bank in the state of North Carolina and around the country. And he's also the co-chair of a very important initiative we have coming up called NC Connect. And this is a bond that is being issued, presented by Governor McCrory, has been signed by him, and now it's on the ballot. But Jim, we thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I wanted to do this show today because this is a very critical issue that will be before the voters before we know it. In March 15th, the primary.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about your background and
Sure.
How you came about to be involved with, and a little bit about what the bond initiative is.
Absolutely. Be glad to do that, Steve. I have a long history with the community college system in North Carolina, and my family has had a lot of interaction with the community college system. My son just transferred from Pitt Community College to East Carolina University in Greenville. And so I was appointed by the governor back in the summer to join the State Board of Community Colleges, which oversees the 58 community colleges in North Carolina. So it's a corollary to the Board of Governors for the UNC system. And through my work there, the governor then called me one day and asked me to be the representative for the community colleges as one of the 5 working co-chairs of this Connect NC campaign. And so that's how I've kind of gotten to be involved in the Connect NC campaign, really to represent the community colleges. But as we'll talk about today, just as a citizen and as a parent and a grandfather, I want to see the state not only do well today, but for many years to come.
Okay, that's great, Jim. And I think let's, for our listening audience, we got to sometimes break it down to basics. So
Sure.
A bond is basically where we're going to be issuing bonds, taking on some debt that will finance or provide us the revenue needed for very necessary infrastructure. So this bond, and I've got a really good memory, I've studied this, so
yes.
let's do a test here. So you're looking at the NC Connect bond would be about $980 million for the UNC system.
Right.
$350 million for community colleges like Wake Tech. Mm-hmm. And then $179 million for NC State for their agri-science.
Right.
A lot of their innovation programs in the engineering school. Some money for the zoo.
Correct.
Right. And then National Guard, I think $20 million for public safety, things like that. Those are the main.
And then state parks also get another $25 million.
Another $25 million. Mm-hmm. So the bond would. And let's begin with higher education. So,
Sure.
What was the impetus that made the governor bring this to the legislature? Why did you want a bond?
Sure.
I thought we have surpluses of money. Why did we?
Right. You brought up a lot of great.
Devil's advocate.
No, absolutely. You bring up a lot of great points. I'll try to take them all sort of chunk by chunk. First, I would say one of the analogies I've come up with during this campaign is my beautiful wife is from Nebraska. Well, what does that have to do with the Connect NC bond in North Carolina? Nebraska's entire population is 2 million. Well, since the last bond was passed in the year 2000, the population of North Carolina has increased from 8 million to 10 million people. And so we've added 2 million people in the last 15 years since the last bond was passed. That's effectively having the entire state of Nebraska picking up and moving to North Carolina and becoming added to our population. So you think about any other state, Nebraska here is our example, they have their own university system, they have their own community colleges, they have their own National Guard, state parks, water and sewer needs, all the things that a large population would need. And so the governor really has been trying to react to the fact that over the last 15 years we've added 25% to our population 2 million folks, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. And every year, United Van Lines is one of the largest moving companies in the United States. They do a study of the states where they've moved the most people to and where they've moved the most people out of on a net basis. And for the last 4 or 5 years, North Carolina has been in the top 4 for the last 4 or 5 consecutive years of one of the states that the most people have moved into on a net basis. So we continue to see massive population growth.
So we almost have the equivalent of a population of an entire state, like Nebraska, my home state of West Virginia, which is now under 1 million. But so really, the policy reasons behind the bond is we're trying to address that growth.
That's exactly right.
Making investments in. Now I've heard the governor say that the community colleges, it's a lot of its buildings, infrastructure, modernizing equipment, just higher education.
Right, and so there is that component, and then on top of that, we've tried to really specialize into STEM projects, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, because we feel like we're now the 9th most populous state in the United States, and we feel like no longer are we competing against just other states, but it's now truly a global economy. And we don't want to fall behind other countries in the world in science, technology, engineering, and math. And so a lot of the programs here that are part of the bond, that will be funded by the bond, are specifically addressing those disciplines.
Well, that's a great way to. We're going to take a quick station break, and when we come back, we're going to follow right on that emphasis on STEM, which is very interesting to our community here. We'll be right back after the station break.